So now once you have your bracket in, now you're gonna put your outlet up there, right? So now we got our bracket here. We know that we can put our outlet here, here, as long as the TV covers it. So when you measure your TV out, you know if your TV stops here, right? And your TV comes down here. Let's say your TV come all the way up here, right? So you know you can keep your bracket, your outlet in any facility here because it won't show. The thing is to hide the outlet so it can look wireless. Why you want to put your outlet in after you put your bracket in? Because if you decided to put your outlet here and you need to put your bracket here because that's the desired height that you need your TV at, now your bracket will be in the way. So you want to put your outlet in after you put your bracket in, right? So right here we already did a cut, but I'm gonna show you how that cut works because we still have to run the cable up as well, right? So what you would do first, right, is that you'll cut this power off, right? Make sure the power's completely off. You're gonna take this cover off here, right? Gonna open this outlet up. So you want to take this outlet out, right? So why you want to take this outlet is out because you want to see if there's anything obstructing the way for you to put an outlet up here, right? So you want to take this outlet up and you're going to run your rod up here or you're going to run your fishing tape up, right? So you want to run it up to see if there's any fire blocks. A fire block runs this way, right? So this has an open cavity, so we're going to check to see if it has an open cavity. So regular beams run this way, a fire stub run this way. If it's a fire stub right here, it's going to prevent us from putting our outlet right here where we want to put it at, right? So what we're going to do, it's a tab in the back of this box that we're going to push up, right? So this is how this box looks here, right? So we're going to take our screwdriver and try to pull this tab out like this, or we can either push this tab up in the air so we can run our fishing rod up or our tape up. So we can push it up like this, right? So if you look inside this box, it's a tab here. So I'm gonna push this tab all the way up like that, push it out the way so I can run my rod up there. So now I'm gonna run my rod up there to see if I got a free clearance with my fishing tape. I'll show you how you guys how a rod looks. So I'm gonna run this fishing tape up to see if I hear it hit anything. If I hear it knock on something, that means it's a fire block running across. So I know I got a free and clear. So I have a free and clear. So this is how a fishing rod looks. You have a fishing rod like this, you got a glow rod. This is just a regular fishing rod. You put this in the same hole and push it up, right? So once I have my fishing rod up here, I'm gonna cut my box out. This is a blue 1-game electrical box, right? So you would take this and you would draw. I'm gonna show you how it looks. That one is already cut out, but I'm gonna cut this one out so you guys can see how it works. So when you draw, right, you want to draw in this little cavity here. You want to draw on the sides. You want to draw on the other side. You don't want to draw around this lip here because this lip holds onto the wall so this box doesn't fall in the wall. So now you're going to have a broken line. So you just want to complete that broken line with the blue box. You got that broken line here. You complete that broken line as well. Now you're going to take your sheetrock knife. This is how your sheetrock knife looks. Right, they come with one blade here. Sometimes they come with 2 blades, one on this side, one on this side. So when you cut this box out, you want to stay on the line or inside the line. You rather this box be too small than too big, because if it's too small, you can chisel it out a little bit more. You can trim it out. So this is how you can cut this out, just like this, right? This one right here, this particular one is going to be for our cable plate. We already cut the one out for the outlet, so I just wanted to show you guys how to make the cut, right? So it's the same thing, nothing changes. Back up a little bit. So now that we have our rod up here, we're going to put our hand in here and we're going to feel for this rod. So we're going to try to find this rod here. So you see how I'm pushing the rod up? I'm pushing the rod up, trying to find it. Once I find it, I have it here, right? So now what I want to do, I want to take my electrical wire, which is called Romex, right? This here is a 14-2, right? So this is how you cut this here, right? When you're trying to get to the wire, you just want to tap the cover, right? This cover in here, you just want to tap it. You don't want to go through it. You just want to tap it just to break it a little bit, right? You see I just put like a little tap in it so I can get a little line so I can pull it. Once I pull it, I'm going to use just one of the 3 wires, right? So I can attach it to there and pull it through. So I cut 2 off. I'm going to cut the neutral off and I cut the the positive black wire off. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this wire and I'm gonna put it through my fishing tape, right? So I'm gonna wrap it around nice and tight, right there, right? Once I got it nice and tight, you may wanna take some pliers and just push it down real good to make sure it's not too bulky. And then you're gonna take some tape around it so you can keep it in place. So you're gonna take your black electrical tape and you're gonna wrap it around here nice and tight. So watch how I do it. Notice that I'm pulling the tape. As I'm wrapping it, I'm pulling it so I can get a nice tight bond. Right? Then I'm gonna rip it off. And when I rip it off, I'm gonna leave a lip here and I'm gonna fold that lip over so it doesn't stick so I can be able to take it off later. So now I'm holding this here, but I'm pulling it at the same time at the bottom. So I'm pulling it. See? So I pull it through. So just for video purposes, I'm gonna cut this off. I usually would just pull the tape off. I'm gonna cut it off, right? So now that I got it through here, I'm gonna do the same thing I showed you earlier. I'm gonna tap it, just so I can have enough wire here. And that's how that looks when I tap it, see? I didn't want to go all the way through. I'm just gonna tap it just enough to put a little lining so I can pull it. Then you gotta remove this paper here. So now we don't want this much of this in the box, so we're gonna pull it through so we just have our wires in, right? And now we're gonna go up to the top and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna cut it, put about, let's say about a handful right here, and leave a little slack there. We cut it here, right? Now we're gonna tap it, put it to your hand, tap it about right there. We're gonna do the same thing. We're leaving like just a little crease, just like that. See that? Just a little tap, and we're gonna pull it. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna take our blue box, and we got the tabs here. We're gonna push one of the tabs down, just like that there. Push that tab in a little bit, and then we're gonna run our wire right through the tab, right into the box. Let's move this out the way. Get this wire going through here. All right, so we're gonna just push it just a little through so you can see just the white part of the wire, the cover, right? So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna put this inside the wall, this blue box. So how this works is that when we put this blue box in the wall, we start to screw this little ears is gonna pop up and catch the inside of the sheetrock, and it's gonna catch the inside of the sheetrock down here. So this lip is gonna catch down here, this lip is gonna catch up top. But when you put it in, you wanna push the screw all the way in, push this screw all the way in, and have them flat. And you put it inside the wall, you insert it inside the wall. Then you're gonna take your screw gun, tighten it down. Once you tighten it down, you're gonna strip the wires. Now remember I said it's a 14 gauge wire. So you look at your strippers and you go to 14, right? And you put this inside 14. Now what I usually do, I can eyeball now, but just for beginner purposes, what you wanna do is just have it from your fingernail to the top of your thumb, right? You put it there, and you put it on 14. Now, when you do this technique here, you want to push it down hard because you're trying to strip it. Do about the same thing, 14, right? Now, what you're going to do, you're going to bend these over and create a C shape, right? You bend it from about right here. See how much I left out? And then you bend it over, right? And you're going to do the same thing with the ground wire, right? So you have your hot wire, which is your black wire. You have your white wire, which is your neutral wire. You have your copper wire, right? So your white wire is always going to hook up to the silver, right? Your ground wire is always going to hook up to the green screw. So your neutral and your ground wire is always going to be on the same side. Your neutral and ground always on the same side. The hot wire is always going to be by itself on a gold, right? So this is why I put a little slight bend on them. So I can loop it around the screw. Once I loop it around the screw, I'm gonna use my strippers, or you can use needle nose pliers to squeeze it so it can lock on it. And I'm gonna do the same thing with my ground wire. And then I'm gonna do the same thing with my hot wire, my black wire. Once I have done that, I'm gonna tighten it down. Now, as you notice, I wrapped it around the screws, but you also can take this same black wire and plug it up in the back of here on the gold side. You can take your neutral wire and plug it up in the back on the neutral side, and then you can take your copper wire. That's always gonna hook on that on that green screw. So now I'm gonna push this in here. So when I push this in here, right, you don't just push this in here. You want to create an S shape, right? So you want to hold this down, bend this up like that, and then push this way so it can read like an S. So this folds right back in there nice. See how that curve effect is, right? So now we're gonna put that in here. So you don't have to super tighten this up. This has like a little slot, so like, you know how you put the outlet plate on, if it looks a little uneven, you could just do this to even it out. So you can leave these not super tight, just tight enough so you can have a little wiggle room if you want to slide it. So now what we're gonna do is put our outlet plate on, our cover. There you have an outlet at the top. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna connect into the bottom. So I'm gonna show you how that works right now. We're gonna go down to the bottom. So now we got our outlet at the top. We're gonna connect into the bottom. So instead of stripping it and hooking it up to the screw, what I'm gonna do in this situation, I'm gonna plug it up into the back so you can see both techniques. So now, if we plug it up to the back, you don't want it to be a whole fingernail length. You wanna slide up on a fingernail a little bit right here, right? So we're gonna slide up a little bit, not too much. So you wanna have about that much. So you can take this black wire, which is your hot wire, and you're gonna plug it right into the back, just like that. And you wanna give it a good snag to make sure it's in there good. So I'm able to touch this outlet because it's not live. So remember, you have to cut the power off first, right? So I'm gonna do the same thing. So you don't wanna cut too much off, because you cut too much off, the wire will be exposed back here. So you just wanna do a little bit, just enough, so you can plug it in back here. Do the same thing. Plug it in, and you see there's no wire exposed there. So if I cut it up all the way up here, it'd be wire exposed. When I push it back, my ground wire might touch that. So now we got both of them locked in. So now what we're gonna do, you see, we got another ground wire there. So what we do with this ground wire? We can't hook the ground wire up to here. You're not supposed to. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna tie it in to this ground wire, and it's gonna feed that up there. So you don't wanna start all the way here. You wanna start as far back as possible. So you're gonna wrap it around, start wrapping it around a little bit. And once you start wrapping around, then you're gonna take something called electrical pliers that look like this here, and then you're gonna start to twist it. You're gonna braid it on it, right? Once you braid it on it, you're good to go. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna push our ground wire back in there first, right? Push that ground wire all the way back in there, and then we're gonna create that same fold. We're gonna bend it and push it and create that fold. Right, so when we create that fold, all right, so we create that fold, and then we're gonna put our screws in it. So this had broke, the sheetrock broke. But we got it open like this so you guys can kind of see how the studs and stuff is. So this wouldn't normally happen because the sheetrock wouldn't be this thin here. So we got it like this so we can show you guys just for learning purposes. So we're gonna screw this in. Then we're gonna put our bottom screw in. There you have it. Then we're gonna put our cover. So now this outlet is feeding power up to that outlet. So all you gotta do now, you go cut the juice on, and then you got power at the top. So now we're gonna show you how to do this here in the next video. We're gonna show you how to run the cable line up to this hole.